Okay, grab a pen and paper or your notes on your computer, whatever the case may be, because yes, this is recorded, but I don't know where the recordings go. So if you don't take notes, you may never see this ever again. And I might say something good. I don't know. I really have no idea. We're going to find out. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about staying positive, staying optimistic, whatever word you want to put there on your worst days. So let me ask you this. In real estate, do you have some tough days? You have some tough days in real estate? Yeah, I see a couple heads nodding.
Yes.
You're more than welcome to unmute, put something in the chat box. The more participation, the more fun this is. Okay. As Trina says every morning. Every morning. Yeah. Every morning it's tough. Yeah, there are tough days in real estate. And let's be honest, is it sometimes tough to get out of that tough day? Is it hard sometimes to get out of this little slump I'm in, this mindset I'm in, right? You get that feeling that this is never going to end. Or, how many of you, maybe not so much anymore, as you're more seasoned, but how many of you, when you were starting your career, had days where you were like, is there any other profession I can do? Right? I know I did.
Yes, Robert.
God, this sucks. What else can I do? There's got to be something else, and then you start going down your resume and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get hired anywhere else. There's a Seinfeld episode about that, for those of you that are Seinfeld fans, and George is trying to figure out what he's actually good at, and Jerry's kind of giving him a reality check. So we have those days, we have those moments. Now, here's the thing that I'm sorry to tell you. There's no way around it. Those days are going to happen, no matter if you're a brand new licensee or you're 30 plus years in the business. You're just going to have days that are tough. You're going to have days that challenge you mentally. Okay. Sometimes it is, all jokes aside, sometimes it is every day. Sometimes it's once a week. Sometimes it's monthly. Okay. But there's no way around it. You're going to have those days. So what we have to do, though, is figure out, how do I get over this faster? How do I deal with the days that are tough, that are mentally challenging, and still be able to go on? Because here's what I do know. The longer it goes on, the worse it gets tenfold. So here's what I mean. If you're in a poor mental state, okay, let's say right now you're in a poor mental state, you're having a tough day. Maybe the intensity of that tough day is at a 2. Okay, it's just a tough day. If you don't resolve it, tomorrow it's only day 2, but that intensity goes up to a 5. Day 3, it goes up to a 10. Day 4, you haven't solved it yet. You're still in that mode of, this is tough, I'm in a bad mental state. That intensity is at a 50. And then now you're day 4, day 5 into this, and you're only 4 or 5 days in, and your mental state can be just wrecked. Some of you have been there before. I know I have. Okay. This is why the alcohol business makes so much money. Okay. But that's a different story. We could talk about that another day. Okay. So you have to figure out how to get over this faster. So what I wrote down here is a list of things you can do to help overcome those tough days, to help move past the challenging mental fatigue that you're dealing with on a regular basis, to keep moving forward, keep giving yourself hope that something else better is coming. So they're not written down in any particular order of importance. This is just specifically how they're written down. So the first thing I wrote down here is, I wrote it down differently when I took these notes, but then when I watched the Kobe Bryant video the other day, I reworded it. And what I did, I wrote down here is unpack the incident. Unpack the incident. I originally wrote the note down as isolate the incident. But I watched that video the other day. Thanks again to Miguel for sharing that. Is unpack the incident. So here's what I mean. Give me an example of something that happens in real estate that really, gives you a mental setback, that really kind of puts you in a tough mental spot. Give me something that happens in real estate.
For me, it's if somebody yells at me and was really mean.
So you're prospecting and somebody yells at you and is really mean. Okay, great.
Stop doing that, Robert.
Stop doing that, Robert. I've been working on getting better at that. Okay, so a great example. Give me another example of something that really puts you in a mental set. Okay, Marcella says transactions, escrow cancels, things like that. Sure, happens all the time. So when I say unpack the incident, isolate the incident, is really dive into this situation of, okay, how bad really is this situation? So somebody calls and yells, or I'm prospecting, they yell at me, they're mean at me. Okay, and I'm in a bad mental state. Well, let's unpack that. What really happened? Well, I made a call. I asked someone if they're interested in buying or selling. They yelled at me. Okay, great. So let's go even further than that. Who's really impacted by that? Well, I'm impacted. Why? Because they said no. Does anyone else say no? Yes. Okay, great. So really, because they were mean, but the result wasn't any different than some of the other no's that you get. Your family wasn't impacted. Really, your bank account's not impacted. Your health isn't impacted. They're not impacted. Clients aren't impacted. No one else is impacted by this one particular call of somebody being mean. Okay. So we get past it faster by just accepting the fact that really no one is that affected by it. Okay. And also accepting the fact that you have no idea what was going on in their life at that moment you called. Okay. Are there times, you don't even have to raise your hand or tell me if you agree, but are there times when if somebody called you at a very certain moment of your life, you would probably not be very nice on the phone? Okay. You don't have to answer, but you know darn well that there are moments that you're fuming for whatever reason may be, something happening in your life. And if somebody calls, unfortunately, they're going to get the brunt end of it. So you just never know. You move on. A transaction and escrow closes. Okay, great. You unpack it. Well, here's the thing. If you have a listing and the escrow cancels or something like that, yeah, that's a problem. But let's go even further. You still have a listing. Yeah, it sucks. You got to do the marketing again. You got to find another buyer, things like that. But it impacted really one person, the seller. Okay. But you still have the listing, you still have the deal, you're going to get it done. If it's a buyer that cancels, yeah, it sucks, but okay, let's unpack it even further. Well, look, it just means I have to go show them houses, which is part of your job. So when you unpack the incidents, what you find is that really not that many people are affected by this. It's a small little hiccup in the day that's just part of the gig. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so when you're in a bad mental state, something that happens, just unpack it and realize, like, who cares? This isn't really that big of a deal. Okay, so that's number one. The next thing I wrote down here, it's kind of a carry on from number one, is that view this setback as a temporary event. View it as a temporary event. So you're in a bad mental space. The prospecting is just wearing on you. Okay. The deal falls out of escrow. Somebody yells at you. Nobody comes to the open house. This is all temporary. I want you to write this down. The law of average. Law of average. Law of average is this. If you have a bad day, that means a good one's coming. That's just the way the world works. it's temporary. But it's only temporary if you get over it. Because remember I said at the beginning, if you don't get over it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you view this as, hey, look, law of average, this is this open house. I came here. This sucks. I was here for 2 hours and one group came through and they're not even interested. And they had an agent. So I couldn't even get another lead out of it. This sucks. Okay, that sucks. Yeah, that does. But that means tomorrow, get on the phone. You'll probably have some great prospecting. Find yourself a lead. Anyone ever prospected and no one answered the phone? That happened to anybody? Yep. You ever had a prospecting session where everybody answers the phone? Or most people answer the phone, right? You have days where it's like, Robert, I prospected for an hour. I made 2 contacts. Then there's days I prospected for an hour. I had 15 contacts. Was it because you did something different? No. It's just the law of average. That's the way it works. The setbacks are temporary if you keep doing the work. So don't ever get into the fact that this is a permanent situation. Oh my God, every open house I do from now on, I'm only going to get 1 person. Well, no, probably not. Next open house you might do, you might get 40. Matab, go ahead.
Question.
Yes.
What do you do when I can get, when it's 1 day or 2 day, I can get over it. I think my hardest time, and I'm not sure if everybody goes through that too, but my hardest time is when it drags for like a few days, for a week, for example, or it drags for a week and a half. What do you do then? Like,
Well,
how do you snap out of it?
So it's a great question. And we're going to review a couple of those points. But part of that is try to get it before it gets to a week. Okay. That's part of it. It's a great question. And that is one of the things we're going to go over, because that's where most people struggle. But that's why I'm talking about this at the beginning, is that we got to get it before it gets to a week, before it gets to 2 weeks, a month. Try to nip it where it's at after a day, a moment. Okay. It's a temporary event. Don't ever look at it as the whole thing. This is the way it goes. I wrote down here next, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. Oh God, I suck at prospecting. Everyone's so mean to me. It's not a personal thing against you. Everyone's telling me no. It's not a personal thing against you. They don't want to work with me. It's not a personal thing. See, our biggest mental difficulties is that we take things personally, and therefore we think we are a terrible person. That's the part of the personally. They didn't list with me because they didn't like me. So now I'm taking it personal, and that impacts your mental space more than anything else, is when you take it personal, because they don't like me. They don't want to work with me. Maybe it had nothing to do with you personally, which more times it doesn't. If somebody doesn't list with you, what is some of the reasons they might not list with you?
They had made a promise to somebody else.
They made a promise to somebody else. Sure. Why else would somebody not list with you?
You did not ready.
I'm sorry, Donna, go ahead.
They're not ready to list.
They're not ready to list. Sure. Tess?
You did not build a rapport with them.
You didn't build rapport with them. Why else might somebody not list with you?
Somebody out-commissioned you.
They out-commissioned you, of course. Why else?
You.
Right, they outpriced you. So if somebody offers a lower commission and the seller goes with a lower commission, is that a personal attack on you? No. An agent offers $50,000 more for their home. Is that a personal attack on you? No. So it's not a personal thing.
Hey, Robert, but
yes, Michael.
Sometimes when you tell them your commission, they say, well, you charge too much. It becomes personal because they say you charge too much.
Well, yeah, but you just can't take it personal, because you charge too much is like, yeah, that's fine, but it's not like they're attacking me personally. They're attacking my business plan. You have to separate the person.
I'm not Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. You have to separate the business from personal. They're not attacking Robert Hertel, the person, the individual, the father, the son, the friend. They're not attacking that person. They're attacking Robert Hertel, the real estate agent, because they don't think my business plan justifies me getting whatever commission. Okay, great. That's fine. But I have to accept the fact that we're in a business where most people are going to charge less than I am. I'm using me as an example. And I'm going to have to accept the fact that most sellers think that real estate agents are a joke because they know a friend who's a real estate agent and also has a full-time job doing something else. So it's not a personal attack. If anything, they're doing an attack on my industry. And you know what? I agree with them. I agree with them. I think real estate agents are a joke. Well, you know what? You're right. Most of them are. I think the industry is a joke. Well, I think you're right, because the NAR only cares about getting their dues, and there's no qualifications to keep your license as long as you don't have a criminal record. But it's not an attack on me personally. You got to stop taking things personal. Accept the fact that it's not a personal thing, but you just have to maybe get better at the business side of things. But if it's easier to accept the business failure than the personal failure. Okay. I wrote down here next, remain calm and objective. Remain calm and objective. The worst thing you can do when you're having a tough day is, the phrase that I use is, jump to the dramatic. Okay. You have the ability, whether you want to believe it or not, to be both objective and unemotional when caught up in a storm of daily life. You can continue to talk to yourself in a positive and optimistic way, no matter what is happening. This keeps you clear. This keeps you calm. This keeps you under control despite external circumstances. If you get all riled up, if you get dramatic and all these other different things because things aren't going your way, and you throw your hands up in the air and you do this and you pound your desk and all these other different things, it's just going to make it so much worse. It's just going to make it so much worse. You have to do your best to stay calm. Can you get frustrated? Sure. But it's possible to be calm and frustrated. It's possible to be calm and annoyed. It's possible to be calm and disappointed. Not every frustration means you have to yell, get angry, be mean. That's just going to make it worse. Okay? You can't get caught up in the emotions. I wrote down here next, accept the fact that failure and rejection is a part of business. See, here's the other big problem we have. This is one of the reasons that we don't get out of this emotional state faster. All right, let's see here. There's 41 people on here. Let's see how many people stay after what I'm going to say next. Okay. All right. Okay.
Oh boy.
So here's the problem that some of us face. Okay. When I say accept the fact that failure is a part of business, we sometimes think, and I'm including myself in this, okay, we sometimes think we're better than we actually are. And what I mean by, I'm not saying that you're not great, because you all are great. I really do mean that. But sometimes we don't get out of this emotional state because we think that we are so great. And there's no reason that we should ever have a sales slump. And there's no reason we shouldn't be able to prospect all day and get an appointment. There's no reason why they shouldn't list with us and all this other stuff. We just think sometimes that we're so high above everybody else. And you're higher than everybody else, but some of us need a reality check that failure is a part of life. Failure is a part of the gig of being in business, no matter how great you think you are. Tess says that's what we call ego. Yes.
Yes.
That's it. But because our ego gets damaged, we then go back and think, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. And we get into this emotional state where we're frustrated and we're down and we're beat. And it really isn't that anything wrong. It's just that your ego took a hit. Everybody goes through it. But sometimes that's part of the problem. So you have to ask yourself when you're going through this, am I going through something that's just a part of business? Right? Or am I just looking at this that this should never happen to me?
You're never gonna see me again. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, Tom, we joke about it, but sometimes I say stuff like that, and all of a sudden it's just the numbers drop and they're like, he's such an ass, and I can't believe he would say something like that. It's like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to help you. And sometimes that means I have to say something honest. Okay. Slumps are part of the gig. Okay. If you watch sports, slumps are part of the gig. Okay. Whether you're Michael Jordan, sometimes can't hit a shot. Whether you're, Mike Trout, a baseball player, sometimes can't get a hit. Whatever the case may be, sales slumps are part of the gig. We interviewed Bernie Gallerini one time. And for those of you who don't know Bernie Gallerini, he's an agent out in Tennessee. He's now got this big team. They do all kinds of great production. But he was telling me about, 1 week, he had, I think was it 5 or 6? No, he had 5 or 6 deals fall out of escrow in 1 week. Now, the good news is it's nice to have 5 or 6 deals in escrow at once, but he had 5 or 6 deals fall out of escrow in 1 week. It happens to everybody. But sometimes we think, well, that couldn't happen to me. We have to get out of the ego and accept the fact that failure and rejection is just part of the gig sometimes. That's just the way it goes. There's no way around it. So don't let your ego get in the way. Otherwise, it's not going to help you get past this problem anymore. And this is one of the reasons that it drags on for too long. Okay. You got to get your ego out of the way. I wrote down here next, keep a wins journal. Keep a wins journal. Why would I recommend keeping a wins journal? Anybody want to take a guess?
So you can take a look at it on bad days, pull out and remind yourself that you had good days.
That's the one. Remind yourself that you have good days. Remind yourself that it's possible. Every single one of you has wins. Some of you are in such a negative space all the time that you think, well, I don't have any wins. Okay. And this is what I do. This is an honest, I do this on coaching calls all the time. I'd say, okay, great. You don't have any wins. Sure. All right. So how many deals have you closed in the last 12 months? Well, I've closed 3. Okay. And they'll get down. I've only closed 3 deals. I'm like, well, guess what? That puts you in the top 20% of real estate agents nationally. Isn't that exciting? You are one of the top 20% of real estate agents in the entire country. Well, I am. Yeah. Isn't that cool? Well, yeah. Well, all of a sudden you feel a little bit better. See, the benefit of being in real estate is that you don't need a lot of wins to be really a winner. Okay. But we get down on ourselves and it's like, well, I don't have any wins. If you're here, you're winning. If you're on this call, you're winning. That's not an ego thing because it's like, hey, I get to listen to Robert all day. I know most of you aren't. Okay. I'm just saying the fact that you're here, you got up, you opened your computer, you got on Zoom to either prospect or role play or listen to me rant or whatever the case may be, you're here. There are a lot of real estate agents that are not doing what you're doing right now. That's a win. Keep that in the wins journal. I got up, got dressed, and went to role play. That's a win. I got a lead. That's a win. I got an appointment. That's a win. I opened up an escrow. That's a win. I closed the deal. That's a win. Remind yourself that it's possible. Keep a wins journal. So on those days, as Mahtab said, when you're down, you're beat, you open up that wins journal and go, I could do this. Because sometimes it feels, like I said earlier, I don't know if I could do this at a wins journal and go, I could do this. And I wrote this down here. Don't ever convince yourself that maybe you just can't make it in this market. Well, I wrote these wins down, Robert, but that was last quarter. Can I do it in this market? Yeah. Have the homes changed? No. Well, they all look the same still, right? Right? Yeah, okay. Have the objections changed? No. Okay. Has motivation of buyers and sellers changed? No. Okay. So yeah, if you can handle a commission objection in 2001, You can handle a commission objection in 2022. Okay. Neil does this all the time, right? Does anybody remember what Neil's very first listing was 45 years ago?
FISBO.
FISBO. Does anybody remember what the objection was that Neil talks about that the FISBO gave him?
I'm not gonna pay a commission.
Not going to pay the commission. 45 years ago. So if you can do something 45 years ago, you could do it in 2022 because they're going to give you the same objection. So don't ever say, well, this wins journal was from that year. This was from that market. This was from this. It's a wins journal. If you did it in one market, you can do it in any market. Well, Robert, this was a win when I lived in Minnesota. Now I'm here in Irvine. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that people were vastly different across other parts of the country. Let me guess. The for sale by owner in Minnesota didn't care about the commission. Well, no, they did. I know. I'm aware. Because people are the same. They might have different accents. They might have different reasons for motivation. Okay. But it doesn't matter. Keep a wins journal all the time. Mike talks about this all the time. Go down to your smallest wins, because sometimes we think we don't keep a wins journal because we don't set an appointment every week. He broke it down one day. I don't remember what event this was at, that a for sale by owner can get you like 10 to 14 wins. Okay. I looked up a for sale by owner in my area. That's a win. I actually drove to the house. That's a win. After I drove there, I actually got out of the house, out of the car and went to the door. That's a win. They answered the door and I said the script. That's a win. You know, they gave me an objection and I handled it. That's a win. You know, like all these things can add up. You got to keep a wins journal because you can do this. And there are days that you think you can't. Right. I wrote down here next. Give yourself some personal time. Take a day off. Oh, that was the thing that got everyone to leave. Oh,
Start right
there.
now.
I knew I was going to say something. It wasn't that I said your ego was getting in the way. Yeah, you all were fine with that. I said take a personal day, take some day off, and cameras started going off. You all are great. Look at the reality is sometimes you need a day off. You need a break. You need a mental day to go relax. But here's the thing. Don't take a mental day to sit around and think about it. Because your thoughts, oh boy, our thoughts get dark and gloomy rather quickly. Right? Some of you quicker than others. Take a personal day. Look at, okay, I know not everyone here is from Southern California. For those of you that are in Southern California, take a personal day and go do any of the 1,000 things that you have access to that you pay for in your taxes and your home prices. Well, what do I mean? Well, take a day and go to the beach. The reason home prices are so expensive in California is because you can go to the beach, you can go to the mountains, you can go hiking, you can go to museums, you can go to restaurants, you can go to this, you can go to that. Take advantage of what you're paying for or move to Minnesota. Because then you can get a giant house for like a quarter of the price since you're not going to go outside anyways. And you're not going to go to the beach anyways. You're not going to go to the mountains anyways. You're not going to go to the museums anyways. Just go buy a house that's cheaper. Go to Missouri.
Move
Get
to
a mansion.
Montreal. I'll help you to buy.
Yeah, go to Montreal. That's how I'll help you to buy. You know what I mean? Take a day. Take a day. Sometimes that's how you have to get over it. Sometimes you can't call your way through it. Sometimes you can't prospect your way through it. You can't role play your way through it. You can't mastermind with other agents the way through it. Because the reality is, let's be honest, if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad moment, and a real estate agent comes up all chipper, do you sometimes just get annoyed? You're in that moment of just pure agony. And here comes jolly old Agent X. Hey, man, how you doing? And you're like, don't touch me.
The
Get
worst
away
is
from me.
Facebook. Worst is Facebook.
Yeah. Or going on social media and everyone's just having the time of their life. Look at what I'm doing. New listing. You're like, you son of a bitch. God, I hope the house burns down. You know? So sometimes you can't mastermind your way through it. You can't, do something like that. Sometimes you just need to take a day break away from the industry and go take a day to just enjoy yourself doing something you want to do. I used to do this. I'm an ocean geek. And so for me, my serenity is the ocean. So there would be times where I would have a really tough day and I got to go to the water, whether that be just sitting on the pier and looking out in space for an extended period of time when people think I'm nuts, but I'm just enjoying my ocean time. If that means I got to get the scuba gear on and go for a dive, then that's what I got to do. Okay. And sometimes you just need to do those things. Okay. But I want you to know you have to give yourself permission to do that and don't feel bad. Now, if you do that every week and you're taking days off every week, we got another problem going on here. But you got to give yourself permission to take some time. Okay. Got to give yourself permission to take some time. I wrote down here next. Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but it just bears repeating. Surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with positive people, because while it is true that if you're ever having a bad day, if you're in a bad mental space, sometimes you don't want to be around, chipper person, but that's just for the moment. As a whole, you got to surround yourself with more positive people, because if you surround yourself with the negative people, they'll just feed your negativity. They'll feed your poor mental because they'll just agree with you. And then you start agreeing with them. And then it's like, well, see, that's just the reality. Now you're in a really dark space, surrounded by a bunch of people who are just go, woe is me as my entire life. That's when things get really, really rough. Really rough. Okay. I wrote down here next. Okay. If this goes on for too long, switch things up in your life. Now, before you write down some notes. Okay. Because I always fear, the biggest fear that I have whenever I tell people to switch it up, switch up their life, do something like that, is that I'm going to get a call from a spouse. Biggest fear I have in life as a speaker. So I'm going to get a call from somebody's spouse. You told so-and-so to switch up things in their life. And oh my gosh, right? That's not what I want. Okay. Remember, Mike has told the story before that he actually got called into a divorce hearing, of something he said, like just, he was encouraging people to I think it was upgrade. Upgrade. And he got called into a divorce hearing. So my biggest, what I mean by switch up your life, if it goes on for too long and you can't snap out of it, the personal day is not working. Okay. I'm around positive people, Robert, but it's not working. Okay. I'm doing the calls. I'm writing the wins journal, but God, this has been a week. It's been 2 weeks and I can't snap myself out of it. You need to switch things up. So here's what I mean by switch some things up. Okay. You need to move your desk. You need to, I'm not talking about switching brokerages, but move to a different office. I'm talking that you need to maybe go spend some money and you need a new car. You need a new wardrobe. You need to switch some things up in your life. You need to do some stuff different. You need to go mastermind with different people, role play with different people, interview different people. You need new people in your life. You need something else to snap you out of it, because whatever funk you're in, if it goes on for a week or two, You need something new. That's if it goes on for too long and none of this other stuff is working, you need new stuff. You need to break out of it because you're now at a stage where you're not going to prospect your way out of it. You're not going to role play your way out of it, and you can't keep taking personal days. So what you need to do is you need to shake up your life. Again, not in a major way. Okay, I'm not telling you have to move somewhere else. Although that's exactly what I did when I was 24 years old. I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. Not because it didn't work out for me. I just wouldn't recommend anyone doing it. When I was 24, for those of you who don't know, I was in a rut in life. So I moved to New York City because that seemed like a logical thing to do. You know, when you're in a rut in life, you know, financially and different things, you obviously buy a one-way ticket to New York and, you know, that's where you go. Now, it worked out for me, but I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. Okay. So I'm not telling anyone you got to move to a different place, but go talk to new people, go mastermind with somebody different, even get out of the industry, expand out of the real estate industry. Go talk to someone who's successful in insurance. Go talk to somebody who's successful as a banker, somebody who's successful as a roofer, somebody just open up the mind to something else. You got to expand the life a little bit. Because you need to get the juices flowing again. You need to get back to a different thing. And your rut is more that you're stuck. Sometimes your rut is that you're stuck. And you can't move. You're everywhere you go. I've done this before. I've done this before. I've done that before. I've done that before. You're stuck. You got to expand out to something new. If it goes on for a week or two and none of this other stuff is working, that's what you got to do. That's what you have to do. Okay. And the last two things I wrote down are kind of smaller things, but are really important. I wrote down here next, find something, not find something, have something prepared at all times that can make you laugh. Have something prepared at all times that can make you laugh. Here's what I mean. Do you have a YouTube clip that you know you can go to that'll make you laugh? Okay. Or a book, an excerpt from a book. Yeah. What'd you say, Matap?
Yes.
Yeah. You got to have something. Because inspiration, some people will say, well, you got to have something that'll inspire you. Well, sometimes inspiration don't work. Well, you got to have that Les Brown, that Zig Ziglar ready at all times. Sometimes that don't work. Sometimes you're like, screw you, Les. Zig Ziglar, you Texas bastard. I don't want to listen to you anymore, right? That's what you say sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
But laughter can always fix the problem. I love Les too, Ernest. I'd say that having fun about Les and Zig and all those guys and gals. Laughter will always fix. You ever heard the term laughter is the best medicine? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the inspiration don't work. The laughter will work. So find something, either a YouTube clip or a book, an excerpt from a book or something that in that moment when you feel the storm brewing, hold on, 5 minutes, turn it on, get a laugh out, and the smile, the joy, and it's like, okay, let's do it. Now, depending on what makes you laugh and depending on people in the office, be courteous. Let me give you an example. I know instantly, without a shadow of a doubt, that if I turn on Eddie Murphy doing stand-up comedy about Stevie Wonder and that clip, I will laugh hysterically for an extended period of time. I am also well aware that some people are not fans of the amount of F words that Eddie uses in that clip. So I know that if I'm going to turn that clip on, the headphones are also on because I don't want to make anybody upset in the office. So be mindful of whatever does make you laugh. You're you're courteous to the people that are around you and things along those lines. Okay.
Hey, can I make a suggestion about
Yes,
that?
Mata.
Something, what's his name taught us, Schumacher, that came to one of the retreats,
Yes.
Mike brought them, is just either laugh at it, some whatever problem came up, like out loud, just mention and just laugh about it, or just, and I have tried it many times, which is just start with
Yeah.
and just for literally 5 minutes laugh out loud by yourself, and believe me, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, there you go. I'm telling you, the
Hey,
inspiration
Robert,
doesn't always work. Hold on one second, Michael. The inspiration doesn't always work. The laughter will work. It will get you in a better frame of mind. Yes, Michael.
I just watched the Oscars awards. That's right. You laugh a lot there.
There you go. Whatever works, man. Whatever works. Right. I'm telling you, that's the difference. Okay. And the last thing I want to mention, okay, is this is if a deal falls out of escrow, because that, as Laura said earlier, or Maricela said earlier, I think maybe it was in the chat box. If a deal falls out of escrow, here's what you do. Okay. This is like a Mike Ferry trick that he taught me years ago. And he's probably, some of you have maybe even heard this if he said it at a seminar. What was the source of that lead? So a deal falls out of escrow. What's the source of that lead? Immediately start calling that source. So deal falls out of escrow. Oh my gosh, my buyer fell out of escrow. Well, where'd you get that buyer? Well, I got it from doing just listed, just sold calls. Great. Get on the phone and start making some just listed, just sold calls. Go find another. You can still have that buyer. You can still get them into escrow, but call that source again. It's like a mind trick that it's like, well, I already got I got a deal from this lead source. Let me get out of the negativity and go find another one. Okay. Database expires for sale by owners. Whatever the source was that fell out of escrow, call that source immediately. Questions on any of the stuff we went over today? The last thing, we'll end with this.
You didn't mention exercise.
Yeah, because some people will never do it no matter how much you say it. I'm not trying to be mean. That's just the reality. I'm really not trying to be mean. That wasn't meant to be a joke. That wasn't meant to be mean.
Robert, that is so mean. Oh my God.
I'm not trying to be mean, and it wasn't meant as a joke.
Just kidding, Robert.
I know.
Exercise.
But the reality is,
Horrible people, Robert.
the reality is, we could talk about exercise all day long. Some people are never going to do it. So I have to, I only, despite being expressive, I only have so many words a day. So if I know there's no chance of somebody that I'm not going to get the entire group to buy into, then I'll never do it. Some people are just never going to do it. Now, it could be, for some people, it is exercise. That's the endorphins, is they go for a run. I did that. Matab was joking with me the other day because at 1 o'clock, I was pulling out some resistance bands, and she was asking what those were. And I said, look, I need a break. I need a break.
I thought they were whips.
Yeah, that's what she said. They were whips. She's like, are those whips? And I said, no, they're my resistance bands, because I needed a break. I needed a break. And sometimes for me, like that 1 to 1:30 slot is I could take a little bit of a break and do some exercise.
Robert, how about if you say sexercise? I'm sure everybody.
I like it. I'm not.
I
Again, I'm not going down this path.
His whips are for relief.
Yeah, we've lost control. Okay, we've lost control. The wheels are off the wagon. All right.
Downhill
Well,
fast.
nobody, yeah, at a rapid rate. Boy, I tell you, nobody said this can't be fun. All right, good job, everybody. So the last thing, it's all for fun. The last thing that I will say as we wrap this up here, when you're going through this kind of stuff, is you really, really, really have to believe that you can do this. And what I would say to some of you is, and I offer this to everybody, okay? Some people take me up on this and some people don't, and maybe because they don't need it, that's fine. But I got to tell you, if you have those moments and you really don't think you can do it, you really don't think you can snap out of this, that you can't do this job, that you can't do this business, I really recommend you give me a call. Okay. I might be on a coaching call. I might be on a meeting or something like that. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, but I don't have a lot of skills, but one skill I do have pretty well is I can kind of quickly get people motivated, or at least inspired to try to believe that they can do it. And
Robert,
for
what's your phone number again?
it's 909. Well, yeah, my country code is 1.
Why exactly do you
The
want to
Tom's
call?
in Canada,
God.
so I don't
Oh,
know
God,
how the
the
dialing
meanness
system.
from
I don't
Robert
know
is
how the
coming out
dialing
today.
system works
What's
there.
going on?
I don't know.
Okay,
what the
what's your
dialing
phone
system
number?
is. I don't know what the dialing system is in Canada. It's 909-210-3344. And let me tell you something. Let's see, is she on here right now? She's not on here right now. I would call out Melinda if she was on here. So my point is that some of you might think like, well, I've been in business a long time, I'm a high producer. I don't need anyone to, have a little call with. Well, we have an agent that makes almost $2 million a year that calls me every so often. Not because she doesn't know what the hell to do. It's just that she beats herself up sometimes and she needs me to remind her that she's pretty good at what she does. So don't be afraid to do that. I'm here to help as much as I can. Okay. All right, everybody. That's all I got for today. Hopefully we could talk about this topic for a long time, but